Welcome back to another piano lesson with Warren. My name is Warren McPherson. If you're new to the channel, this is where we talk about gospel piano and gospel music from a theoretical perspective. We teach you how to play by ear, not just through trial and error, but through a tried and true proven method. Today we're going to take a look at funky piano. Kind of a different stuff that I've usually teach on this channel. But today we're going to take a look at a funky piano and how you can incorporate some of that stuff in your playing. Oftentimes you're probably going to come across styles where you need to do something different. And so I'm just going to give you some tips because there's so many different ways to approach funk piano that there is no wrong or right. It's all about, does it sound good? Does it sound groovy? So I'm just going to give you some tips on things that I do that I think sounds cool. All right, so stay tuned. Okay, welcome back. So, funky piano. What I was doing is playing sort of like a 12-bar blues, 1-4-5 progression over this funky beat that I've put together. And if you're wondering who put together that bass line, that was actually me. I played the bass hand at the left hand, not now, but I recorded the bass line with the left hand, and so I could then play some keyboard stuff over it and give you some funky ideas. So first, let's talk about the actual progression I'm playing. So what I'm playing is a C7, the 1, right? Then I move to an F7, the 4, or you can think of this as an F9. Then I'm going to my 5, again, G9, back to F, F9, and then back to C. So that's the primary progression. But I've changed the way I played it because when you're playing this funky stuff, the less notes, the better, because you got to be doing a lot of fast rhythmic stuff. So you can't be juggling too many notes. It's going to sound dense, too compact. We want to give it a light, funky sound, almost like the way a guitarist would play some funky stuff, right? So what I'm doing in the left hand, excuse me, I'm playing predominantly that, which is the tritone, right? The 3rd and the 7th of the chord, rootless voicing. Occasionally I might put the 9th in there with the thumb. And in the right hand, I'm just playing sort of a rootless voicing of that C7. So it's almost like an E diminish. If I play everything together, that's what it looks like, because the bass already got the C, right? And so then I'm doing a lot of this stuff. So if I just play the backing track again. Right? So that's how you can just jam on one chord. I'm not playing both hands together. It's kind of like a stagger. Now I'm using this nice sort of Wurlitzer sound with some phase added to it and some slight wah. So based on the velocity, how hard I'm playing it, might gives it a different tone. And that's another thing you can capitalize on when you're playing funk, right? Is to either use that wah pedal, the phase pedal, or just the hands, how hard you're pressing the... You can accent different hands. And the key thing is just try to sit in that beat. You have to be able to feel that 1, 2, 3, 4. Another thing that you should try to do is try to keep your rhythmic patterns short, or what we call motivic pattern. So it's something you can repeat motivically. Here's an idea again. So I'm keeping the same sort of rhythmic ideas as I change chord, the same rhythmic pattern. There might be some slight variations here and there. That's okay. But generally, you want to sort of have a one rhythmic pattern that you can replicate from chord to chord. That will help to establish a sort of bass groove. Okay, after a while, you can variate from that, but it's important to just have one steady pattern that you can keep consistent from chord to chord. Like I said, with some room for variations, but you know, overall you have a slight thing going. So that's what's going on. When I go to the 4 chord, now I'm shifting to that voicing. Again, rootless. And the right hand, I'll go to that. Right? Back to the 1. When I go to my 5, I'm playing that. Again, rootless voicing. See in the left hand, I got the 7th, 3rd, and 5th. The G's the root. And then I can play around with the different notes in the right hand. Can do the 3rd and the 5th, 5th and the root, 3rd and 7th, and you can play around with these to get different character. Back to my 4. Back to my 1. So that's the general basic chord progressions of what I'm doing. Now let's talk about these little in-between riffs that I'm doing. So when you're on that 1, a nice sort of thing you will hear common in funk music is a... So I'm just going to the 4, and when you get to that 4, you can really flick that middle note. That bending, right? Or, so you can resolve to the triad or to the 5th or to the 7. So there are a couple options. Let's check it out. So you see, I'm combining them, variations, you know, so I might do, and just rolling out left hand. Or, so you can go back and forth between the two. It all sort of falls under the umbrella of that C7 chord, which is what we're playing around with. Right? Get used to that sort of what I call jabs. Very common in funk. Another thing that I should have mentioned earlier that I haven't mentioned, I'm almost never using the pedal. When you're playing funk, no more than 5-10% usage of the pedal, because so much of what you're going to be doing needs to be detached that the pedal is just going to get in the way. So you can almost ignore the pedal entirely. If you want to hold something longer, just hold it with the hands. Right? I must say I use the pedal because, you know, I know how to use the pedal really well. So in places when I'm doing that turnaround or that walk up, I'll pedal each of those chords. But even, you don't even have to pedal them, right? You can play them like that. I pedal them because it just sounds better to me. But that's kind of like one of the few places I'll pedal. Most of the other stuff, I'm using this finger legato or just keeping it staccato. So, and this left hand, just playing around with these notes. And again, there's no sort of like specific pattern. I'm doing this solely improvisatory. So I'm just listening to hear what sounds good, and I keep going with that. You know, check it again. Right? So So you can really play around with different variation. Another thing that you got to be listening to when you're playing funk, you got to listen to the bass, because the bass and the drums sort of form like a glue. They're like that rhythm section that really keeping the fire lit. We don't want to interrupt that dynamic, because you can hear the bass is pretty busy. And we got that drum going. So they got a nice rhythmic thing going. What we're trying to do is complement that, not cause confusion to that, not take away from that. And so my left hand, because it's closer to that bass register, I'm listening carefully to make sure that I'm not too overly busy with that left hand where it starts to get in the way. It's a very delicate balance here that we're trying to walk, all right? And it comes heavily from listening, which is why I decided to do this demonstrating using just basic progressions, nothing complex. Okay, let's talk about some of the riffs I'm doing when I go to that 4 chord. So, all right? When I go to that 4 chord, now one of the things I like to do, again, I'm taking that sort of A diminished, which is the rootless voicing of that F, and then I can play around with it like that. All of those are sort of like minor third chromatic movements. C minor, sort of like B flat major, third. A minor third. A flat minor third. G minor third, and come back. So these are the notes I'm playing with. And so you'll hear when I get to that F how I'm doing it. Here we go. So you see how I'm moving those thirds? But in a rhythmic way. Now, when I get to that 5, I'm doing the same, keeping the same concept. Taking the diminished portion of that 5 chord, and I'm doing the same sort of movement. Right? These are the notes I'm playing with. Let's see if we can back it up. Here we go. All right? So it's the same concept. I'm keeping how I'm moving those thirds. And like I said, there's so many different variations of ways you can move it. I'm doing it improvisatory. So that's why every time I get there, what I'm doing might sound slightly different, right? Because I don't want to keep you in a box and say you have to do that. For practice purposes, you could keep it simple and just pick one and just sort of beat that out before going to another one. And those thirds can lead into each other. So when I'm on that 5 and I'm doing, see how it leads nicely into that 4, and then back to my 1. Now that turnaround I'm doing at the end of it is a sort of E7 sharp 9, the F13th, A sharp diminish, the G, sus2, sus4, or the 4 of a 5. So, right? And then that takes us back to the top. Now, there are also some additional passing chords that I'm using, because this is just a 1-4-5 progression. So let's show you the places that I'm using some passing chords. So to get to the 4, I'm using the tritone substitution, which is the G flat 13, to come down to the F13, which is the 4. Because we're doing on the 5, then to the 4. So I go that to the 4. But again, I'm doing it spacious and rootless voicing. So the way I lead into it, I go, so rootless voicing, right? And that takes me to the 4. So here's how it sounds in context. Here we go. So it's very quick, ba-dee-dee-da, which goes back now. Takes me back to the 1. Now before I go to the 5, I'm using a secondary dominant, which is my D9 or D7 to take me to 5. But before we do that again, I'm doing it rootless voicing. So I'm going, so there are a couple ways you can voice it, right? I think I did that. So the D becomes a 13th. So that's the chord, but rootless voicing. And I'm just using the right hand to walk up from the 5. And then that takes me to the 5. So in context, it sounds like this. Here we go. One more time. Here we go. So, secondary dominant, rootless voicing, passing to take me to my G. Now another thing you can do again is that descending F sharp 13th to get to the 4. To take you back to the 4. So da da da. Sometimes I even voice the 5 like that as a 13th. Then I do to get to that 4, right? So again, rootless voicing. Think G is your bass. Then I'm doing chordal voicing. F, so that's a G flat root. Come back down to the F, chordal voicing, right? Back to my C. So let's check it out in context to hear it sound. Here we go, and. So you see how I'm doing all of that. Now, you might be saying, Warren, you're doing some runs in that right hand. What's going on there? Blues scale. That's all it is. Blues scale. So I'm using both major blues and minor blues. Let's talk about that real quick. The minor blues is this one. C, E flat, F, G flat, G, B flat, C. formula is the 1, flat 3, 4, sharp 4, 5, flat 7, back to the root. That's the minor blues. The major blues now is, think of C pentatonic with a flatted third added. That's the major blues. Or you can think of it as the 1, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, 6, 1. That's the major blues. So when you see me doing, right? That's all major blues. So all of those things, I'm sort of thinking the major blues. So all that's major blues. Then occasionally I go to that minor blues. So one of the things I always recommend for folks, once you learn your blues scale, then it's time to start practicing what I call mixing it up. So we learn our scales this way. But when we're playing, we don't actually, that doesn't really sound good. So you practice your scales, little different melodic lines. So like, so you just practice it, loops. Try to be able to start your blues scale on any note in any order, ascending or descending. So that's how you kind of start to develop this, what I call vocabulary of melodic licks and lines based on the blues scale, right? And there are different variations. That stuff right there, I'm just moving in fourths. So you can also think about like the pentatonic scale is also introducing all of that as well. The MIDI file and the backing track for what I played in this lesson is going to be available for download for free. So click the link in the description of the video so you can practice this stuff with that backing track if you want to get a hold of that groovy backing track, right? And just practicing it, practice slowly. First, just get used to doing the groove. Something like this, just the basic groove, right? Add the passing chords. Once you can add the passing chord, then you can start to introduce little riffs, little lines, little runs. So that's it, guys. That's the ideas that I have for you as it relates to funk piano. This is something that does take a lot of practicing. It does require a level of facility and technique, understanding of inversions, rootless voicing, so it's not really a beginner thing. That being said, I'm not going to say if you're a beginner, don't try. Always try. There's always something to learn, but this is how we get that funky sound going. Let me do a little bit of it again for you. with some improv. Hey, this is so much fun, having some fun here, guys. But anyway, like I said, the backing track and the MIDI is available for download if you guys want to get a closer look into what I was doing, probably slow down some of those runs with a MIDI player and all that good stuff. Click the link in the description of the video and you can download that stuff for free. All right, so I trust this was enlightening, entertaining, and mostly educational for you. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, a thumbs up, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments section. There are a lot of goodies here. At this point, we have hundreds of videos available for you on various topics and skill levels. So dive in, enjoy, and learn something new. All right, so until then, keep listening, keep singing, keep practicing, and I will catch you in another tutorial. Bye for now.